Well, it's been a while since I made a video, and I've never made an informative one before. And I'm going to have to do this now because for other people, I've never been able to find a video on how to completely take apart the differential for an original Cub Cadet. So, I'm going to show you. In here, you got your differential, obviously, ring gear, spider gears, side gears, pinion gear back there, way back there. What you gotta do is you gotta get to that right there. That's a bearing retainer. Got another one right there, each side. Well, to get to those, you have to pull the axles off. You got a bunch of bolts all the way around. This one's got the brake on it. Same on this side. So I'll be doing that right now and show you how to do this. Alright, so I just undid all those bolts. Here's what the inner shaft looks like for the axle. There's your seal right there. There's the bearing retainer. You got 3 bolts on each side. It'll just slide right out of there. Still got this one on. This one's got the brake. You don't really need to worry too much about that. It'll just come off with it. Get this bearing retainer off, you'll see what it looks like. Alright, I figured I'd show you what the brake looks like before I fully take those off. Right here, just slide this off like so. There's your brake drum and brake band and the brake lever. Fairly simple, just comes off with it. Mine's a little dirty. There's your other bearing seal or retainer. Not that hard, just slides off. There's no C-clips or anything in here. And before I fully take these retainers off, you can see right in between, right there, you got a little shim. There could be 2 or 3 or 1 on each side. That's the gap between the ring gear and the pinion in there. You don't want to mess that up. Should have very little movement to it once you get it in there. Just keep track of which side. You'll be fine. This one's a little farther in. Alright, I'll throw those off. And once you get these off, the whole carrier and everything should pop right out. Alright, so I went a few steps ahead. We got one bearing retainer right there. Got that O-ring that slips right into that groove. Use all your shims. Want to keep those together. Got this side off. Here it is right here. All your shims, so it'll fall flat up against it once you put it on. Keep those all together. Now what I did for this, I kind of tapped it with the hammer, or a screwdriver and a hammer, and like twisted it. And brought my screwdriver in there and pried it out gently. Make sure you don't ruin the shims. This side was a little harder. What I had to do is I had to take my dead blow here, right here, on a piece of wood, and tap on the side of this bearing gently to make sure you don't ruin it. And then that'll force this out the hole to where you could get a pry bar in there. And then you just pry it out, and just keep going until it pops out. And for the differential, when it's in there like this, you can't just pull it out immediately. It won't go that way. So when it's in there like this, before you go pulling it out, you gotta twist it, and then keep twisting it until it's gonna look like this, sitting in there. And then you just shimmy it out and it'll pop right out. So once again, it's in there, you twist it, and then pull, and then keep twisting. It'll look like this sitting in there. You twist it more and it'll pop right out. So now, I'm going to start putting it back together. Alright, so everything's back together. This side's on. What I did here is I made sure the shim's all lined up with the holes. And then I tapped it on there gently. Made sure the O-ring was still on. Threaded in each one of those 3 bolts in, just barely. Make sure everything lines up when I'm putting it on there. And then I went around, tap there, 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 and I kept going around and putting those bolts in a little more each time until it's nice and snug. And then I take my socket and I crank them down one at a time, there, 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 until it's nice and flush and good on the inside there. Same thing on this side. Tapped it on there, screw the bolts in, and then tap, 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 and keep going around and tighten them each up. And then once you're there, you get this, and you tighten it all down one by one until it's all nice and snug. And then all that remains is you just slide this on, slide it on there, and then right here on your brake, you got this pin right here. That lines up with this hole right there. And they just slide both on, you tighten the bolts all down, and you're done. Now, the reason I did this, flipping this backwards like this, if you've noticed that already, is to get forward gears, because the engine I put on my tractor is a little different than the original one.